A black woman's desperate 911 call is dismissed by officers who assume she's overreacting. When her attacker returns and cameras capture what the police refuse to see, a viral video exposes a system that failed her and forces a reckoning no one can ignore. The phone screen glowed in the darkness. Maya's thumb hovered over the emergency call button, trembling. She pressed it. 911, what's your emergency? He's outside my door, her voice cracked. My ex-boyfriend. I have a restraining order. He won't stop knocking. The dispatcher's tone flattened. Is he threatening you verbally? He doesn't have to. Maya's breath came short. Last time please just send someone. 23 minutes later, red and blue lights painted her living room walls. Maya opened the door to two officers. The older one, Rodriguez, had tired eyes. The younger one, Patterson, looked annoyed. Ma'am, we checked the perimeter. Rodriguez's voice carried practiced patience. There's no one here. He was just... Maya gestured frantically. He knows when you're coming. He always... Patterson cut her off. Do you have any proof? Video, photos? Maya's hands shook as she pulled up her phone. Text messages. Restraining order documents, call logs. Patterson barely glanced at the screen. Look, ma'am. His tone shifted to something sharper. We can't arrest someone who isn't here. If he comes back, call us again. I'm calling you now. Maya's voice rose. He's dangerous. I'm scared. Rodriguez exchanged a look with Patterson. Try to stay calm. Lock your doors. Get some rest. They turned toward the hallway. Patterson muttered something to Rodriguez. They both chuckled. The sound echoed in the stairwell as they left. Maya stood in her doorway, watching their tail lights disappear. The hallway light flickered. Somewhere below, a door creaked open. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming up the stairs. Her door was still open. 3 hours earlier, Maya Thompson had been laughing. Her co-worker, Jennifer, had sent a meme about impossible caseloads and burnt coffee. Maya responded with 3 crying, laughing emojis from her desk at New Haven Community Services. She loved her job. Loved the family she helped navigate systems designed to fail them. Loved the grandmother who brought her homemade cornbread every Tuesday. Loved the teenage girl who finally smiled after 8 months of therapy sessions. Maya was good at her work because she understood invisible wounds. She knew what it meant to speak and not be heard, to present evidence and watch it be dismissed, to do everything right and still lose. Her apartment in the Westbrook complex was modest. 1 bedroom, cream-colored walls, thrifted furniture she'd carefully chosen. Plants lined the windowsill. Photos of her mother covered the fridge. A vision board hung above her desk. MSW degree 2026. New apartment, peace. She'd lived here for 2 years, 18 months with Marcus. 6 months alone trying to forget him. The restraining order was 4 months old. Judge Morrison had granted it after reviewing hospital photos, witness statements, and police reports. Marcus had 90 days in county jail. He'd been out for 37 days. Maya walked home from work that evening under October sun that painted everything gold. She stopped at the corner store for eggs and bread. Mr. Patel asked about her mother. She smiled and said she was doing well, even though the anniversary of her death was tomorrow. She climbed the 3 flights to apartment 3C, unlocked her door, put groceries away, changed into an emerald green sweater and soft pants, made chamomile tea. At 7:47 p.m. her phone buzzed. Unknown number, I miss you. Her hands went cold. She blocked the number. Made dinner she couldn't taste. Tried to read a book but the words blurred. At 9:15 p.m. someone knocked on her door. She looked through the peephole. No one, another knock. Harder this time, Maya. Marcus's voice, honey smooth and familiar. I just want to talk. That's when she dialed 911. Officer Patterson arrived first. He was 26, 2 years on the force and already convinced he'd seen everything. Rodriguez followed 15 years in, counting down to retirement. Maya met them in the hallway. Her sweater clung to her shoulders. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. He was right here. Marcus Webb. I have a restraining order. She pulled up the documentation on her phone. He's violated it twice before. He was knocking, calling my name. Patterson walked past her, shining his flashlight down the empty corridor. How long ago? 20 minutes. Maybe 25. Maya followed him. He knows the timing. He always leaves before you arrive. Rodriguez took her phone, scanning the restraining order with mild interest. This is valid. Did he threaten you tonight? He doesn't have to threaten me. Maya's jaw tightened. Last year he put me in the hospital. Fractured collarbone. The report's in your system. Patterson returned from checking the stairwell. Building's clear. You got security cameras? Doorbell camera. But I haven't checked. Well, that might help. Patterson's tone suggested it wouldn't. Right now we've got no suspect on scene. No witnesses. No visible threat. Maya's stomach dropped. So you're just going to leave? Rodriguez softened slightly. Ma'am, I understand you're frightened, but we can't make an arrest without evidence of an active crime. He's not here. If he comes back, he'll hurt me. Maya's voice cracked. That's why there's a restraining order. That's why I called you. Patterson's patience evaporated. Ma'am, we responded to your call. We investigated. There's no one here. I suggest you lock your doors and try to relax. Try to relax? Maya stared at him. Are you serious? We have other calls to respond to. Patterson was already walking toward the stairs. Real emergencies. Rodriguez lingered a moment. Keep your phone close. Call if anything changes. They descended the stairwell. Their voices carried up. Patterson's words indistinct, but the tone clear. Dismissive, frustrated. Rodriguez laughed at something. Maya stood frozen in the hallway. The fluorescent light above her head hummed and flickered. She walked back into her apartment. Lock the door. The deadbolt. The chain. She sat on her couch in silence, watching the door. Her phone felt heavy in her hand. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Document everything, baby. Make them listen. But she had documented everything. She had a restraining order, hospital records, witness statements, police reports, and they still didn't believe her. At 10:47 p.m., her doorbell camera detected motion. Maya sat in the darkness of her living room. She'd turned off all the lights except the small lamp by the window. It cast long shadows across the cream-colored walls. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She wrapped them around her cold mug of tea, but the trembling traveled up her arms into her chest, settling somewhere behind her ribs. She'd done everything right. Everything her mother taught her. Everything her training as a social worker reinforced. Document, report, follow procedure. Trust the system. The system just told her she was overreacting. Maya thought about Shanice, one of her clients, 22 years old with 2 kids and a boyfriend, who left bruises shaped like handprints. Shanice had called the police 6 times. 6 times they came. 6 times they left without making an arrest. On the 7th call, Shanice's neighbor found her unconscious in the hallway. Maya had held Shanice's hand in the hospital, had helped her file for a protective order, had promised her the system would work this time, had looked her in the eyes and said, "They'll listen. I promise." The irony tasted like copper in her mouth. She picked up her phone, scrolled through the text messages she'd shown Officer Patterson, the ones he barely glanced at. Marcus's words crawled across the screen. "You can't hide from me. I know where you work. I know your routine. We're not finished." She'd shown them everything. It still wasn't enough. Outside her window, a car door slammed. Maya's entire body tensed. She waited for footsteps on the stairs. Waited for the knock. Nothing came. Just the distant sound of the vehicle pulling away. Just her own heartbeat, loud in her ears. Her mother's photo watched her from the kitchen, taken 2 years before the cancer. Strong jaw, knowing eyes. Lips pressed in that expression that meant handle your business. Maya took a long breath, stood up, walked to her front door and checked the locks again. Deadbolt, chain, doorknob, all secure, all useless. She was alone. Maya's mother, Diane Thompson, had been a court stenographer for 23 years. She'd sat in rooms where women told their stories to judges who checked their watches, where evidence was questioned and victims were cross-examined like criminals. Diane came home every evening and told Maya the same thing. Document everything. Dates, times, witnesses. Make copies. Keep records they can't ignore. So Maya did. When Marcus first grabbed her arm hard enough to leave fingerprints, she photographed it. When he screamed at her in a restaurant parking lot, she got the manager's contact information. When he showed up at her job unannounced, she reported it to HR and kept the email confirmation. She had a folder 2 inches thick, digital and physical copies, everything dated, everything witnessed. Her mother had died before seeing whether it mattered. Maya met Marcus 3 years ago at a community fundraiser. He was charming, thoughtful. He volunteered at a youth center and talked about breaking cycles of violence. He seemed safe for 8 months he was. They moved in together. He cooked breakfast on Sundays. He remembered her mother's birthday. He held her when she cried about caseloads too heavy to carry. Then something shifted. A promotion he didn't get. Stress he couldn't name. The first shove came during an argument about dishes. He apologized for 3 days straight. Bought flowers. Promised it would never happen again. It happened again 5 weeks later. And again. And again. The hospital visit came on a Tuesday. Marcus had been drinking. Maya said she was leaving. He slammed her against the kitchen counter. She felt something crack. Heard it too. The ER doctor, a tired woman named Dr. Patel, gave Maya pamphlets about domestic violence resources, took photos for medical records, spoke in a gentle voice that assumed Maya was fragile. Maya wasn't fragile. She was a social worker. She knew the statistics. 1 in 4 women. 3 women killed daily by intimate partners. Black women disproportionately affected, disproportionately dismissed. She knew the system failed women who looked like her. She'd seen it in every case file. She just never thought she'd become a case file herself. She pressed charges, got the restraining order, left the apartment they shared, started over in Westbrook with second-hand furniture and double locks. Marcus went to jail. 90 days felt like safety. Then he got out. And the messages started. And the sightings. Him at the coffee shop near her office. Him in the parking lot at her gym. Always watching. Never close enough to prove anything. Until tonight. Until the knocking. Until she called for help. And they told her she was scared of nothing. Maya's hands were steadier now. The adrenaline had burned through the fear, leaving something colder, something focused. She opened the doorbell camera app on her phone. The footage loaded slowly, buffering in choppy increments. She scrolled back to 9:15 p.m. There. Marcus's face filled the frame. He wore a burgundy jacket she'd bought him last Christmas. His expression was calm, almost gentle. He knocked 3 times, paused, knocked again. Maya. His voice was barely audible through the recording. I just want to talk. Come on, baby. Don't be like this. The timestamp showed 9:17 p.m. He stood there for 3 minutes, knocked twice more, then looked directly at the camera and smiled. At 9:22 p.m. he walked away, down the stairs out of frame. At 9:38 p.m. red and blue lights appeared. The officers' backs were visible as they knocked on her door. Rodriguez's head turned, scanning the hallway. Patterson said something that didn't register on the audio. At 9:52 p.m., Maya appeared in frame. Her face was tight. Her hands gestured as she spoke. The officer's body language was clear even in silence. Weight shifted, arms crossed, heads tilted in barely concealed impatience. Patterson walked past her, checking the corridor. Came back, shook his head, said something short. Maya's face crumpled slightly, then hardened. At 9:58 p.m., the officers left. The camera's audio picked up their voices in the stairwell. Another paranoid girlfriend. Patterson's voice was clear. Waste of time. Rodriguez chuckled. At least it was close. Better than the East Side call. Yeah, quick in and out. Think she'll call again? Probably. They always do. Their laughter faded as they descended. Maya watched the footage 3 times. Her chest felt hollow. Her mother's voice echoed, "Document everything." She had. She documented Marcus at her door. Documented his restraining order violation. Documented the officer's dismissal. Documented their laughter. She had everything: proof, evidence, timeline, witnesses through technology. At 10:47 p.m., the camera detected motion again. Marcus walked past slowly, looking up at her window. He didn't knock this time. Didn't need to. His message was clear: I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. No one's going to stop me. Maya's finger hovered over the share button. She could post this. Show people what happened. Show them how women like her are dismissed, mocked, left vulnerable. But would it matter? Would anyone care? Or would they find reasons to blame her too? Why did you date him? Why didn't you leave sooner? Why are you so emotional? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. I'll see you soon. Maya's decision crystallized. She opened Twitter, uploaded the footage, wrote 1 sentence. I called for help. They told me I was overreacting. She pressed post, put her phone down, stared at her locked door and waited. The video uploaded at 11:34 p.m. Maya fell asleep sitting upright on her couch, phone in hand, every light in the apartment blazing. She woke to sunlight and 8:47 notifications. Her hands fumbled for her phone. The screen was a cascade of retweets, comments, messages from strangers. The video had 52,000 views. Someone had stitched it with text. This is why we don't trust the police. Another account, with 300,000 followers, had shared it. Black women are dismissed even when they're literally begging for help. Local news reporter Angela Chen had commented, following this story. Would love to speak with you. Maya's hands shook as she scrolled. Anger, support, disbelief. Some people questioned the authenticity. Others shared their own stories of being ignored, dismissed, mocked by the same people supposed to protect them. By noon, the video had 200,000 views. By 3 p.m., 500,000. The New Haven Police Department issued a statement at 4:17 p.m. We take all calls seriously and are reviewing the incident in question. Our officers followed standard protocol in responding to a report where no suspect was present on scene. Standard protocol. Maya read those words 3 times. They felt like a slap. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Her heart seized. She almost didn't answer, but the rhythm of the rings felt official, not threatening. Ms. Thompson, this is Sergeant Martinez with Internal Affairs. We'd like to speak with you about the incident last night. Maya's voice came out flat. Now you want to talk. I understand you're upset. We're taking this seriously. Can you come to the station? Will Officers Rodriguez and Patterson be there? A pause. They're currently on administrative leave pending review. Something loosened in Maya's chest. Not relief, not justice, just acknowledgement that someone finally heard her. I'll come tomorrow. Maya ended the call. She walked to her window, looked down at the parking lot. A burgundy jacket moved between cars. Marcus, staring up at her window, phone in his hand. Her phone buzzed. New message. You really think this changes anything? Maya's neighbor, Mrs. Chen from 3B, heard the crash at 11:47 p.m. She was watching her Korean drama with subtitles when the sound of splintering wood came through the wall. Then, screaming, Mrs. Chen grabbed her phone, dialed 911, told them someone was breaking into 3C, told them to hurry, told them she could hear a woman screaming for help. She pressed her ear to the wall, heard Maya's voice, high, terrified, desperate, heard a man's voice, low and angry, heard something heavy hit the floor, then silence. Mrs. Chen ran into the hallway. Maya's door hung at an angle, frame shattered. The apartment was dark. She saw shapes moving inside. I called the police, Mrs. Chen shouted. They're coming! A figure emerged, Marcus. His burgundy jacket was torn at the shoulder. His eyes were wild. He looked at Mrs. Chen for one long moment, then ran for the stairs. Mrs. Chen stepped into the apartment. Maya, honey? She found her crumpled near the couch. Phone shattered on the floor beside her. Left wrist bent at a wrong angle. Blood from a cut above her eyebrow. Breathing shallow but steady, the doorbell camera was still recording. Its little green light blinked steadily in the darkness, capturing everything. The broken door, the shattered phone, Maya's emerald green sweater torn at the collar. The timestamp 11:51 p.m. Police response time 7 minutes too late. Again, paramedics arrived first. They loaded Maya onto a stretcher with careful hands and worried faces. Mrs. Chen rode with her, holding her good hand, whispering in Mandarin and English that she was safe now. Help was here. She was going to be okay. The doorbell camera kept recording. Officers secured the scene, collected evidence, called for detectives. Someone finally took her seriously, because this time, the violence they'd refused to prevent had happened anyway. At 6:23 a.m., Maya's video hit 12 million views. Maya woke to white ceiling tiles and the smell of antiseptic. Her left wrist was casted. Her ribs screamed with every breath. The cut above her eyebrow pulled tight under butterfly bandages. A nurse checked her vitals with gentle hands. So you're awake. Good. Doctor will be in soon. Maya tried to speak. Her throat was raw. The nurse brought water with a straw. What day? Maya whispered. Thursday morning. You've been here about 7 hours. The nurse adjusted the IV. Your neighbor saved your life. She's in the waiting room. The door opened. Officers Rodriguez and Patterson walked in, both in civilian clothes. Maya's entire body went rigid. Rodriguez cleared his throat. Ms. Thompson, we need to take your statement. Maya stared at them. These men who'd laughed in her stairwell, who'd called her paranoid, who'd left her to face exactly what she'd begged them to prevent. Patterson wouldn't meet her eyes. We're sorry about what happened. We need to know everything so we can find Marcus Webb. You knew everything. Maya's voice came out broken. I told you everything. You didn't believe me. The room fell silent. Rodriguez shifted his weight. Patterson studied the floor. We're going to catch him, Rodriguez said finally. We have an APB out. He won't get far. Maya closed her eyes. Exhaustion pulled at her like undertow. Get out, ma'am, get out, they left. The door clicked shut. Maya lay in the silence, staring at her casted wrist. Her phone was gone, shattered on her apartment floor, but she didn't need it to know what was happening outside this hospital room. The video. It had gone viral. Millions of people had watched her beg for help and be dismissed. Millions had seen the officers laugh, and millions now knew she'd been right. The vindication felt hollow, painful, like winning a game by losing everything. Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway, holding a small bag. I brought you clothes, and your mother's photo. From your fridge, Maya's eyes burned. She took the photo with her good hand. Her mother's face looked back at her, strong and knowing. Document everything, Diane Thompson had said. Maya had. And it hadn't saved her. But maybe it could save someone else. The lawyer arrived Friday afternoon. Her name was Simone Parker, 43, with silver-streaked locks and a burgundy blazer that meant business. I've been following your case. Simone pulled a chair close to Maya's hospital bed. What happened to you is unacceptable. And I don't think you're the first. Maya adjusted her position, wincing. What do you mean? Simone opened her laptop. I pulled public records. New Haven PD has 17 documented complaints in the last 2 years about officers dismissing domestic violence calls. 14 of those complaints involved women of color. 3 resulted in hospitalization or death. The numbers settled heavy in the room. Maya had suspected. But seeing data made it real. Your video changed everything. Simone turned the screen toward Maya. It's evidence, not just of what happened to you, but of a pattern. A system that fails women, especially black women, repeatedly. Maya studied the screen. News articles, social media threads, a Change.org petition with 400,000 signatures demanding police reform. Her story had become a catalyst. "I want to file a federal civil rights lawsuit," Simone continued, "against the department, against Rodriguez and Patterson specifically. For negligence, for violating your constitutional right to protection, for discriminatory policing. Will it work?" Maya's voice was quiet. "You have documentation most victims don't. The doorbell footage, the restraining order, hospital records, the officer's own words on camera, plus the pattern of similar cases." Simone leaned forward. "This isn't just about compensation. This is about changing policy, about forcing them to treat domestic violence calls seriously." Maya looked at her mother's photo on the bedside table. Diane Thompson had spent 23 years watching the system fail women, had taught Maya to document everything, because she knew belief didn't come easy for women who looked like them. "There's something else," Simone said. "Marcus was arrested this morning in Hartford. He'll face multiple charges, breaking and entering, assault violating the restraining order. You're safe from him now. The relief should have been overwhelming." Instead, Maya felt numb. Safe now. "After everything. The preliminary hearing is in 2 weeks," Simone continued, "for the assault charges, and I'd like to file the civil suit next week. But I need your consent. This will be public. It will be difficult. The department will fight back." Maya thought about Shanice, about the other women in those 17 complaints, about every person who'd called for help and been dismissed as paranoid, emotional, overreacting. "Do it," Maya said. "File everything." Simone smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." The New Haven City Council chambers were packed, every seat filled. Cameras lined the back wall. Maya sat in the front row, her casted wrist resting in her lap, Simone beside her. Councilmember Johnson called the emergency hearing to order. "We're here to address concerns about the New Haven Police Department's response to domestic violence calls, specifically the incident involving Ms. Maya Thompson." Police Chief Morrison sat at the defendant's table, jaw tight. Rodriguez and Patterson sat behind him, both in dress uniforms. Simone stood. "We'll present evidence showing a pattern of negligence that nearly cost my client her life." The lights dimmed. The video played on the large screen, Marcus knocking on Maya's door. His face calm, his voice gentle. The timestamp 9:17 p.m., then the officers arriving. Maya's desperate explanations. Patterson's dismissive body language. Rodriguez's barely concealed impatience. The audio came next. Crystal clear. Another paranoid girlfriend. "Waste of time," Rodriguez's chuckle. "At least it was close. Think she'll call again?" "Probably. They always do." Laughter fading down the stairwell. The room was silent. Someone in the gallery gasped. A reporter's fingers flew across her keyboard. The video continued. Marcus returning at 10:47 p.m., walking slowly past Maya's door, looking up at her window. The predatory patience of someone who knew no one would stop him. Simone paused the footage. Ms. Thompson called for help. She had a restraining order. She had documentation. She had evidence of previous violence. And these officers laughed at her. She advanced the footage to 11:47 p.m., the door breaking, the shapes moving in darkness. Mrs. Chen's panicked 911 call playing over the images. 7 minutes, Simone said quietly. That's how long it took for officers to respond when Mrs. Chen called. 23 minutes when Ms. Thompson called. The difference? Mrs. Chen reported an active break-in. Ms. Thompson reported fear. And fear from a black woman isn't treated as credible. Chief Morrison stood. Our officers followed protocol. There was no suspect on scene when they responded, because he left before they arrived. Simone's voice cut through. Ms. Thompson explained that she showed them her restraining order. She showed them text messages. They had every reason to take additional measures, station an officer nearby, file a report, at minimum take her seriously. She pulled up another document on screen. Here are the 17 other complaints. Amara Johnson dismissed. Stalker broke in 3 days later. Lisa Martinez Dismissed. Ex-boyfriend shot her outside her workplace. Keisha Williams dismissed. Found unconscious in her home. Tell me, Chief Morrison, is this protocol working? The chief's face flushed. We're reviewing our policies. You're reviewing them now because Ms. Thompson's video went viral. Because 12 million people watched your officers mock a woman begging for help. Because she nearly died proving she was telling the truth. Maya sat very still. The room felt hot. Every eye was on the screen. On Simone, on the officers who'd left her vulnerable. Councilmember Johnson leaned forward. Officers Rodriguez and Patterson. Do you have anything to say? Rodriguez stood slowly. We made a mistake. We should have done more. Patterson remained seated, silent. A mistake, Simone repeated. That's what you call leaving a woman to be beaten by the exact man she warned you about? No response. Ms. Thompson would like to address the council. Simone gestured to Maya. Maya stood on shaking legs, walked to the microphone. The casted wrist felt heavy at her side. I did everything right, she said. Her voice carried clear and steady through the chamber. I documented everything. I got a restraining order. I reported violations. I kept evidence. I called for help, and your officers told me I was overreacting. She looked directly at Rodriguez and Patterson. You left me to die, and when I didn't die, when my neighbor saved me, you came to my hospital room like you were doing me a favor. Patterson's jaw clenched. Rodriguez looked away. This isn't about me anymore, Maya continued. It's about every woman who calls for help and isn't believed. It's about the system that treats our fear as hysteria. I'm filing a lawsuit not for me, for every woman who comes after me. So maybe next time someone listens. She sat down. The room erupted in applause. The suspensions came first. Rodriguez and Patterson, removed from duty pending investigation. Then the policy changes. Mandatory training on domestic violence response. Victim advocates embedded in every precinct. A new protocol requiring officers to file reports on all restraining order-related calls. Even without arrests, Marcus Webb pleaded guilty to aggravated assault, breaking and entering, and violating a restraining order. 18 months in state prison. Not enough, Maya thought. But something. The civil lawsuit settled 6 weeks later. The department admitted no wrongdoing, but paid an undisclosed sum, and agreed to implement all recommended reforms. Simone called it a victory. Maya called it a beginning. She moved to a new apartment in East Rock. 3rd floor, security building, doorman who checked IDs. Mrs. Chen helped her pack, brought dumplings and stories about her own escape from an abusive marriage 40 years ago. We survive, Mrs. Chen said, taping boxes. Then we help others survive. Maya returned to work in January. Her caseload felt different now. She understood the exhaustion in her clients' eyes. The way they flinched when she asked if they'd called police. The resignation when they said it didn't help. I know, Maya told them, but I'm going to keep fighting for you anyway. She started a support group. Thursday evenings in the community center conference room. 12 women showed up the first week, 22 the second. By March, they needed a bigger space. Shanice came to the 3rd meeting. She sat in the back, quiet, listening. After, she approached Maya. I saw your video, Shanice said. I thought it was just me. That I was doing something wrong. Maya took her hand. It was never just you. The doorbell camera from her old apartment sat in a box in Maya's closet. Evidence logged and returned. She couldn't throw it away. It had captured everything her voice alone couldn't prove. Her mother's photo hung in her new living room. Diane Thompson's knowing eyes seemed to say, you documented everything. You made them listen, Maya had, and it cost her everything. And it changed something fundamental. She couldn't save herself in time, but she could save the next woman, and the next, and the next. That had to be enough. Spring came to New Haven with dogwood blossoms and longer light. Maya stood at her new apartment window, coffee in hand, watching the city wake up. Her wrist had healed. The scar above her eyebrow was fading. The nightmares came less frequently now. Her phone buzzed. A message from a woman she'd never met. I watched your video. I called the police last night about my ex. They actually listened. They filed a report. Thank you. Maya read it twice. Saved it with the others. There were hundreds now. Women from everywhere saying your story changed something. Saying they were believed because you proved it matters. Saying you saved my life. She couldn't save them all. The system was still broken. Officers still dismissed women. Violence still happened, but something had shifted. A crack in the foundation. Light seeping through, Maya thought about her mother. About those 23 years in courtrooms, watching women fight to be heard. About the documentation Diane insisted on, because she knew belief didn't come easy. Document everything. Maya had learned that lesson well, but she'd learned something else too. Documentation without action is just evidence of failure. Action without witnesses is just invisible suffering. But documentation that becomes action, that forces witnesses, that demands change, that's how systems break. Her video hadn't saved her. It had saved people she'd never meet. Women who would call for help and finally be heard. Women who would present evidence and be believed. Women who would survive because she had refused to be silent about her suffering. Maya picked up her mother's photo, traced the frame with her finger. I made them listen, Mama, she whispered. Outside her window, the city hummed with life. The sun climbed higher. The day stretched ahead, full of possibility and work still to do. Maya finished her coffee, grabbed her bag, headed out to change what she could, document what she couldn't, and fight for every woman whose voice needed an echo, because she knew now, sometimes survival isn't enough. Sometimes you have to survive loudly, survive publicly, survive in a way that makes the world better for the next person begging to be heard. She locked her door. Deadbolt, chain, doorknob. All secure, all necessary. But no longer all she had her voice. Her story. Her refusal to be silenced. And that was power they could never take away.